Everybody is familiar with the phenomenon of the busy traffic situation during drop-off and pick-up time at primary schools. A lot of parents and children come and go with bicycles and cars that leads to a rush hour around schools, where actually children should be safe. Many studies are also showing that the primary schools are dealing with unsafe situations during these drop-off and pick-up moments. Parents create the traffic problems themselves and behave very irresponsible with their cars. They are actually causing the unsafe situation for their own children. All the studies led to different solutions. Unfortunately, these solutions didn't work that well. This is because they were only created from a top-down approach, focusing on the physical environment instead of the behavior of parents. Behavior can't be changed that easily. Parents are still coming by car and creating all the associating problems. Therefore, this research is being approached from bottom up. The effects of the phenomenon can be better analyzed, and it's possible to come with a better fit solution towards the behavior of the parents. The research is done by taking a closer look towards the mobility pattern of the parents and their behavior around the schools. To perform this analysis well, there are two primary schools chosen at two very different locations, which has been analyzed at the pickup times. First, there is the Hasselbraam, located in a dense living quarter just outside the city center. The streets are very narrow and there is a little parking space. Secondly, there is a Klimboom, located just outside the ring road, also in a living quarter, but with much wider streets and more parking space. Logically, it would be assumable that a large problems will occur around the Hasselbraam, in the dense and narrow area. What was actually visible is very different. The Hasselbraam, the school in the narrow streets, has little problems. Many parents bring their children with a bicycle or by walking. Just a few cars are involved and do not cause an unsafe situation. At the Klimboom, it's the opposite. The wide streets and a large amount of parking lots seem to attract the cars. Double parking and parking on the sidewalk is not rare. Here we even see how this leads to unclear, cluttered and eventually dangerous situations. Besides what is visible on the locations, the statistics are giving the same image. The majority of the parents at the Hasselbraam bring their children with a bicycle. Just a small percentage goes by car. The Klimboom has a much higher rate of cars. Here the majority comes by car and a much smaller part by bicycle. In interviews with the parents that bring their child by car, follows an interesting result. Most people are taking the car because of the comfort that it has. They rather go by car instead of taking a walk, even when they have the time for it. Another popular motive is the distance that they have to travel. This is of course subjective and hard to measure what is too far away. Comfort is in many cases the most important motive. Now that it's clear that comfort is the most important motive, it's possible to see that in the mobility patterns. There are a few different patterns that can be distinguished. They are home school home, the pattern home school sports, home school shop, work school home, and work school home work. The first three patterns all start at home. There, for one or more of the reasons just mentioned before, the parents chose the car to pick up their kids from school. But at school, the pattern split. Some of the parents just take their kids back home, which makes this the smallest pattern possible. Home, school, home. The second possibility is the pattern home, school, sports. This is where the parents don't have the time to go back home after school, but have to drop off the kids immediately at the sports club. The third pattern is the home, school, shop pattern. Here the parents pick up their children at school and go straight to the supermarket before they go home. The second group of mobility patterns are the patterns which don't start at home but at work. Here is a distinction between the two different patterns. Work, school, home, or work, school, home, work. So both patterns start at work. The parents take the car from their work to pick up their kids at school and then they drive back home. When they arrive at home, there are two possibilities. Firstly, the parents and children stay home, or secondly, the parents drop off their children at home and go back towards the work. From the two case studies at the different schools, there's a hypothesis formed. More room for the cars leads to more cars. It means that a car-friendly environment, like the Klimboom with its wide streets, leads to an increase of car use by the parents. And a car-unfriendly environment, like the Hasselbraam with its narrow streets,
leads to a decrease of parents who use the car.
To check the hypothesis, there has been a second case study where two other primary schools were selected. These seem more or less similar to the Hasselbraam and the Klimboom. The two schools are the Rijgelaan and the Bergen. In this case study, the Bergen is a school with a lot of parking places, and the Rijgelaan is a school which is less focused on cars. You can see again there are fewer cars at the Rijgelaan than the Bergen, but this time the difference is less significant.
After this control analysis, it's possible to give an advice. The traffic safety around the school is a very difficult aspect to challenge because human behavior is hard to change. But it's possible to change the external circumstances. Therefore, it's shown that a car-unfriendly environment makes the area around the school less inviting to come by car. The appearance of a poor traffic situation is a good motive to take another way of transport. Therefore, it's very logical to make the area around the school less car-friendly. This can be done by placing fewer parking places and creating narrower streets. Also, the street itself should be focused on cyclists and pedestrians instead of cars. These interventions should not cost a lot of money. It can be done by a simple redesign of public space around the school. Therefore, it's a cheap but very effective way to reduce the unsafe situation around primary schools. Hopefully, these kind of small interventions can lead to a large improvement in the future.